South Loop building contains the most spectacular and unforgettable interior spaces in all of Chicago, and yet few people ever get to see them. Until now. Welcome to Architecture 360. I'm Lee Bay, and I'm talking about the insides of the former EbonyJet Building at 820 South Michigan. Built in 1972, the 11-story skyscraper presents a conservative, modernist face to the world. But step inside, and the building pulls a switcheroo. Behind those sober walls are the original 1972 interiors, and they are wild, colorful, avant-garde, and quite hip for the time. Remarkably well preserved and closed to the public since Ebony vacated the premises in 2012 and sold the building to Columbia College. Luckily, though, photographer Barbara Carent has seen those spaces and documented them with her camera. Barbara is with us now to talk about those unique spaces, a 70s time capsule blown open, and her work. Barbara, thank you for joining us.
Lee, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Now, tell me what drew you to this project in the first place.
Oh, because it's just so awesome. It's an amazing place. I had seen pictures of the environment prior to the time that Johnson Publishing Company had sold the building, and it had been purchased by Columbia, and I had always been very interested in the environment and the interiors, and then subsequent to their departure, I, being an adjunct faculty at Columbia, thought, I'm going to see if I can facilitate some kind of project in this amazing space, and I was able to do so.
What did you see that said, look, I gotta get in here, I gotta do this?
Oh, I'd say just about everything from floor 11 down to the lobby. The entire environment really is different than anything I have ever experienced in one place. I've been fascinated with interiors my entire career, and I have shot everything from antebellum plantation homes in Louisiana, Mississippi for my thesis project when I went to school at the Art Institute for a master's, to the Fairy Castle at the Museum of Science and Industry, to the Uptown Theater. And so this was just one more remarkable interior that I wanted to have the opportunity to explore and make my own in some way.
Now, this is one of those stories in which we wish you could see the photographs that we're going to look at, but Barbara's going to look at a few as we talk. But just to sort of set the stage for this a bit, this was a building that was designed by John Matusimi, who was a pioneering black architect in town, and who passed away. His daughter was married to Arthur Ashe, right. So really sort of royalty in some respects in that era of the 70s. He did the exterior of the building, but John H. Johnson, publisher of Ebony magazine and owner of the publishing and media empire that was once Johnson Publishing Company, turned the interiors over to William Razor and Arthur Elrod, who were interior designers out of Palm Springs, California. And the difference is really surprising.
Practically polar opposite.
They are.
It's the exterior of the building is international style. It's kind of monolithic and, understated. And you walk inside the building and you're immediately transported to some other place. And currently the lobby, when I started photographing, I was able to see the lobby in its original condition with the wonderful carpets and tables, and the Hunt sculpture is going to remain there, which is awesome, but it's kind of naked now because all of that's been removed. But as soon as you get into the elevators, you recognize you're being transported because they all have, they have these amazing panels, which I have been told were changed seasonally. And then you get out on every floor, and each floor is different. Every floor has a different color and carpeting and wall texture, and it's really exciting. It's very lively.
Very lively indeed. And, just to give the listeners a sense, we're not talking about, when you think of a 70s interior, you think about maybe a few harvest golds and some avocado green, and maybe a fern or two. But this is wildly stripes and patterns and diagonals on one floor and deep rusts on the other, and not just wallpaper and carpet, but in its time, furniture, drapes, all those things.
You're forgetting the pink lizard in that trophy room.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, that's just remarkable. And there's also the floor that has kind of that animal print carpeting that comes off the walls. And one of my favorite things, I think that's 7, is it covers the fire extinguisher cabinet also.
Oh, that's right.
It's just
that's
like
right.
There's not a turn that there's nothing that's been missed. Every detail, and I have not experienced it with the furniture and people in the work environment, but the attention to detail, to me, from what I've found that has remained in the space, is just totally remarkable. There's just nothing that wasn't attended to.
And this space in its day was really something. I mean, and it remained that way. And we'll talk about how that happened. But when it opened in '72, everyone from John Lennon and Yoko Ono to Henry Fonda, Bill Cosby, everyone who was anybody of the day kind of came through there and saw this. And even by 1972 standards, they were really looking at something that was unique and something that they'd never see probably anyplace else.
It's such a one-of-a-kind modernist time capsule that, just looking at it today, it's still a marvel.
Now, you've got some photographs there that we're going to sort of talk our way through if we can. And the first one that we see is a bathroom. So there's a shot you've got of a urinal and a sink.
I can't believe you started with that one.
Well, it's the way.
I'm going to sound like a total weirdo.
Well, I had to ask the question. What do I sound like, right? But this is even the wallpaper behind the urinal is just amazing.
After I'd been shooting there over 2 years already, I stumbled. I was looking for a place to plug in a light, and stumbled into this bathroom and was just agog. And then I had to go running up and down on every floor. And what I discovered was that every single ladies' room and men's room on every single floor had a different wallpaper and a different palette, and they're all amazing. They're very retro to the 70s, but they're beautiful. They're metallic papers, and there's nothing that isn't of just the highest caliber. You can just tell by looking at everything that's existing in the space still.
You photograph live interiors. How rare is it to see a corporate interior this intact for this long, 40 years?
This is one of the things I find so fascinating about this project, is that it still remains intact, that they were so committed to the environment that they worked in, to the initial design, that what I understand and what I can see by what remains is that they, remilled and they redecorated, but they kept everything as it was originally designed. And I find that to be just completely astounding, fascinating, and remarkable, because, I think it's very rare for corporations not to want to change their environment, and this seems like such a commitment to brand and design and identity that I find it very admirable and really exciting, because I guess there are probably a lot of interior decorators and designers that were really disappointed that they were that committed to Razor and Elrod's work, but I think it's pretty fantastic.
Another photograph you brought with you is Eunice Johnson's office, the wife of John H. Johnson. Tell us what you saw.
Her office was really elegant and very streamlined, neutral palette. The furniture is all built in. There's this wonderful couch that is a series of curves and pillows and cushions, and the thing it's covered in a curved laminate surface. And what's amazing is that the walls in her office, physically, the way the patterns look in that office change during the course of the day and depending on the light and the weather. And, I assume that that's something that most people would notice, but I was completely blown away by that. It was just, I kept going back in to decide when was the right time to shoot that office and what were the best set of circumstances and what did I really want. And she had this great television inside a console. I mean, everything was totally put together. There was a light table and all kinds of different banquettes of lights, and it was very elegant, but very understated compared to many other places within the overall office.
Yeah, it's really amazing stuff in this. And her office is in the front of the building, so it overlooks Grant Park, just like
it's a great view.
John Johnson's office did on a different floor. And of course, many of you may remember that she was also the boss of Fashion Fair, so she was a boss of the Ebony Enterprise, just like her husband was. Right. So that's worth mentioning. One thing I want to talk about is the test kitchen. It's like if Peter Max did interior decorating for a day and left dressmaking alone, that's what you'd get. I mean, describe, if you can, this space.
Well, I would love a kitchen like this, but I don't cook. But the kitchen is amazing. It's got an orange refrigerator. It's got this kind of a free-form paisley-ish design to the wallpaper, but it isn't just on the wall surface. The compactor and the dishwasher and everything is covered with this pattern. And it has a wonderful marmoleum floor and a lot of fluorescent lights. Just the kitchen it's very well equipped. And also one of my favorite things is there's a built-in can opener that has a little kind of harvest scene on it that's very subtle and completely in juxtaposition to the wild interior. It's like, where did that come from? I guess nobody made one that they could figure out a way to put this paisley print on. So.
And this kitchen had a function. If you were an Ebony reader, or your mother was, in my case, growing up in the 70s, all the recipes that Ebony put out and printed in their magazine were tested in that kitchen. Before that, I got a chance to find that out in the past couple of years. So, it's a kitchen, but also had a function that was sort of out-facing in a way, too.
There was also a window so that you could, if you were not in the kitchen, you could view what was happening in the kitchen from the reception space or whatever the space is that was outside the kitchen. And there was a seating area additionally that had a fantastic wine rack that had the potential for a lot of wines. I assume that's what it was. It has lots of circular shapes in it. And a television, and again, like under cove lighting and just cool upholstery.
So what's it like being alone in that space? It's an 11-story, 100,000 square foot building. What's it like being
110,000 square feet.
Well, who's counting, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so used to it that I don't think about it. What happens is I make an appointment to come into the property and I call security and they meet me at the building and they lock me in. And then I know where all the light switches are and I just have my little iPhone flashlight and I get there during the day. It does get a little dicey sometimes getting out of the building at night because I turn off all the lights on the floors, and so I have to find my way to this, service elevator with my equipment to get out of the building, and so that can get a little exciting.
Now, you mentioned Columbia College, which bought the building a few years ago. We called them for comment and couldn't get one, but the plan originally was to buy the building and turn it into a sort of a library and the top floor, a space to remember John and Eunice Johnson. With a new president there, that seems to be a little bit on hold. But what was your favorite floor?
Okay, how's this for an answer? Whatever floor I'm shooting on that day is my favorite floor. Every floor has something to offer. But if I had to pick my most favorite of favorite floors, it probably would be floor 10 because I love that cafeteria. And the test kitchen, which we've already talked about. But the cafeteria with the diagonal stripes that you mentioned earlier in our conversation is just so exuberant and awesome. It's just so exciting to be in, and I love it.
Since appearing in Slate, what's been the response?
It's been really exciting. The building has a lot of fans. It's really wonderful. There have been so many remarkable interiors and architectural landmarks that have disappeared over the years, and I'm sure it will continue to happen. And I think people get very excited when they find something that's been maintained for the duration that this project is. And, I think this would be a remarkable project for, I guess Gensler and the Freeland Group are potentially
the two architecture firms
that may be working on this, and what an opportunity to have that kind of project.
So what's next for these photos? What do you want to do with them?
Oh, I'd love to do a book. I have a a tremendous amount of content. I probably have upwards of 150 images, and I'm not done with the project yet. There are a lot of people that could be interested in this project. I really would like to have some amazing writers talk about the architecture and the interiors and the sociocultural history of the building, Johnson Publishing Company. Just there's a whole potpourri of topics that could be covered that could support a really fascinating book.
Well, when you get that book, come back here first and let us talk about it.
That'd be great.
Photographer Barbara Karen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lee. It's great to be here.
Well, that wraps this edition of Architecture 360 for now. Thank you for listening. Check me out on Facebook at Lee Bay Chicago and follow me on Twitter under my name. Join me next time.